The big question: would you buy to live, buy to let, or does Leeds need more investment before you even think about it? Right, let's have a butchers and see Wagwan. This is an auction property. Always check the legal pack, as well as auction fees. You may have additional costs and other property problems. Today, we are viewing a freehold, back-to-back terrace house, 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The on-street parking is free. There is no outside space with the property. From Leeds city centre, the property is roughly a 12-minute drive or 20 minutes on the bus. The layout of the property is bog standard terrace house of what we normally see on the channel. Oh, it's got blue carpet. Oh, we'll talk about that in a minute. There is no storage in the property, but it does have a cellar. Would you store your belongings in a cellar? Because some cellars can be very damp, and also there's a lot of people that just don't like going down into a cellar. The property is really damp. It's actually quite bad, but it is one of those properties, so this is completely expected. But yeah, it's very bad. The buyer is required to pay on completion £1,000 plus VAT to the seller for their legal fees. And this property is owned by a company. This property has an EPC rating of D, the blue carpet. Right, let me explain. Many moons ago, there was a massive property scandal in Leeds. There was a particular person purchasing properties mainly in the student areas like Burley, but there were a few properties bought in other areas like Armley and Hare Hills. These properties were purchased at full market value and they were targeted at students, so bought and converted to HMOs. This was before Leeds was an Article 4 area, so we're probably going back, to 2012? You always knew one of these properties when you saw one, as they all have the same blueprint. Blue carpet, blue tiles in the bathroom, built-in desk and wardrobe, spotlights, massive damp problems. These properties were converted to 3, 4, and 5 bedrooms. They were mainly back-to-back properties, and the extra 2 rooms plus a bathroom was in the cellar. It was then sold on to investors all over the country. With student lets, the majority of them move into their property in September. So you can imagine when a property gets sold, the number of rooms that the market is flooded with. Do you know what I mean? These originally were 2 and 3 bedroom properties that were then converted into 3, 4 and 5 beds, so they were always adding as many bedrooms wherever they could. Here's where the patter starts. Some of these properties were bought for £80,000 and sold for £250,000. The mortgage broker and the solicitor was in-house. The reason for the £250,000 is because it was a commercial valuation, meaning it was valued based on the rental income rather than as a family house. Too many rooms on the market means there is a saturation and there are going to be casualties. If a landlord missed the September market, they had the opportunity to get in for the January market. The problem is there were too many landlords that missed both the September and January market. So you have one too many properties sitting empty because there's no tenants for them. Well, there's no student tenants for them. And you can't just move in working tenants. I'm sure back then it is the same as it is now, where you can't mix students and working people in one house, because students don't pay council tax, whereas working people do. In an or student HMO, the landlord would not have to pay council tax. But if there was a working tenant, the landlord would be liable for their portion of council tax. If you have an all-working house, it would have to stay that way, as there is no guarantee the tenant or tenants would move out in August to make room for the September incoming students. Do working people even want to live in a student area? Do you know what I mean? While the properties are sat empty, the landlord still has a mortgage to pay. Paying mortgage for 1 year while the property is empty is no joke, especially if the landlord can't afford it. Because remember, a lot of landlords don't live off their rental income. They work full time. Repossessions started to come through, and there was a lot of them, way too many, loads, a whole heap of them. Too many, too many. The repossessed properties were being valued at bricks and mortar, so the £80,000, as if they were family homes. Yes, there are costs and deposits and other finances and loads of money involved, but roughly speaking, between the £80,000 and the £250,000 is the shortfall the landlord had to pay. To add fuel to the fire, these properties are very, very damp. The difference between the £80,000, what the properties are worth, and the £250,000, what the properties were bought for, is a huge shortfall, Obviously, the different properties have different numbers, but these are the rough type of numbers that we're talking about. It's too much for any single person to bear. It's too much. A lot of the properties ended up being rented to families at a third of the rent expected, but at least some landlords have got to keep their property. I remember at the time an estate agent saying that the lender is so fed up with making a loss on these properties that they are considering renting them out for a few years instead of continuously keep on taking a loss. Wow, I'd never heard of that before. A lot of bankruptcies came out of this, but the worst story I heard was a lady got repossessed because she couldn't cope with the level of debt that she was left with, and decided that Earth was a place that she no longer wanted to be. First time buyers, what are you thinking? After dealing with the damp issues, maybe you can get away with redoing the kitchen and the bathroom in, say, 3 years? At a rate of 6%, the monthly mortgage is £475 if we get the property in budget. So you could just be out here living your life in your bedroom and your dressing room and your office and the elephant in the room. What do you think about the area? Everyone has an opinion on Armley, and I know you saw the bars on the front door. Landlords, we are up north. Do you think we will get a 10% gross yield on this property? Looking at rentals, what are 3 beds in the local area on the market for? Let's do the Jim Jam test. Is the local shop close enough to pop in our Jim Jams on a Sunday morning? Looking at sales, what are 3 beds in the local area on the market for? Just a quick reminder of what a back-to-back house is. On the front, there is a house, and on the back, there is another house. From the property to the bus stop, it is roughly a 4-minute walk. And there we have our shop. let's have a look at the sales history of the property and if the property sold.
Oh my.